Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Imani Palmer. I recently graduated with my PhD from the University of Illinois. Thank you. Thanks. Just making everybody in my family call me Dr. Palmer has been very, very worth it. Thank you. So with that confession, I am not a digital forensic examiner. I saw it as a great opportunity to do some research and to graduate within a certain amount of time with my PhD. So if any of you guys are examiners or people who work in the field, please yell at me, tell me what I'm doing wrong. I don't really care anymore. I already graduated. It doesn't matter. So right now I'm a research scientist at the Information Trust Institute. Basically, I just didn't leave U of I. I'll look for a job eventually, but no rush right now. You can look me up, have some fun, yell at me, hit me up on the email. I'll get back to you eventually. If you see me, Black Panther on Twitter, I like Black Panther. Before the movie, just to be very, very clear, I was much a nerd back then a while ago. So in this talk, we're going to go back really quickly for the history of digital forensics. If you guys are thinking I'm missing anything, let me know. This will just be the gist of it. So we're starting off forensic science. There's a bunch of different areas. You have fingerprint analysis. You have some bug stuff, etymology. You have a bunch of different criminology and forensic accounting fields. And, digital forensics, we just do very nice things. We look at different devices and we look at the fingerprints or the digital fingerprints people leave off of those devices, and we try to collect data. And so you can help and use digital forensics to use it in very different ways: fraud, phishing attacks, identity theft, child exploitation, and drug trafficking. The computer can be used as a target. We can find out malware, virus, and spyware. I had to explain a lot of this to my PhD committee. They were very intrigued, so I thought I'd leave these up here, but I'm going to try to rush through these for you guys. Oh, I had to put this map up because then they wouldn't listen to me and they would just look at the map. I got this down. Guys. Okay. So, cyber war, we can use digital forensic evidence to help us see what happened after certain different types of attacks. Luckily enough, right before I did my defense, John Oliver went on and said forensic science sucks. And I was like, yes, I'm done. I don't have to do anymore. I don't need to explain myself. And he had the gist of it right. Forensic science, we have a lot of different problems in a lot of areas. DNA is not always perfect. Earprint analysis, that one I think we should have always been questioning from the start. Same thing with the bite marks. I was like, I don't really need to study that much to know that we're probably not doing that 100% correctly. And he was right. He got it. Just hit the nail on the head. We need to do better, especially in terms when we are prosecuting people. Security, we don't really need to be as concerned, but when we're sending people to jail, we need to be a little bit more concerned. So this is the National Institute of Justice standard, but we have a lot of different standards out there in society. The last two are analysis and reporting. This is what I get from using Linux and trying to display things. Sorry about that. So we have preparation, the collection of all our different devices, examination, analysis, and reporting. So back in the day, 1960s and 1980s, the Beatles, I think Star Wars and Star Trek happened in both times during that 20-year difference. And we had a bunch of rallies and people were going crazy, trying to make this work. But in digital forensics, we sort of really just began. The Cuckoo's Egg case started. We had the FBI starting to realize we could actually use digital forensic evidence for different things, and forensic accounting-ish and system logged editing was really what the beginning of digital forensics looked like. Skipping on from 1986 to 1995, the better Star Trek came out, Next Generation. We had great times, we had different great years. Microsoft 95 is really rolling. And so we had a little bit easier time. Everybody was using Windows, so everybody only needed to use Windows. Great old PC that no one traveled around with or tried, and those really large suitcase things that I've seen only on TV, because obviously I'm just not that old, guys. and just not that old. And the FBI started their computer and analysis response team, CART unit. Moving on to, when I was born and alive, it's been great years. The best Batman came out back then, Mr. Freeze. Britney Spears did not shave her head yet, and Michael Jordan ruled NBA basketball. And with that, the internet started, child porn cases started to come out, and we started to get really, really into our phones. And so this also changed the digital forensic landscape. We only had more and more data to look at. So just to look at a quick case, back in, I think, 2000, Alicia Kay was chatting with a boy who wasn't actually a boy, he was a man. He actually ended up kidnapping her. Luckily enough, the FBI was able to get his username, and because he actually uploaded video of him kidnapping her on the internet as well. So the FBI was able to track him down, and we were actually able to rescue her. Moving on closer to now, 2005, 2010, Britney Spears have now shaved her head. She's good again, but just remember the timeline. Justin Bieber was actually still somewhat okay, and the Kardashians look like that. Just to be very clear, I did not remember this, but apparently 8 years ago, they looked somewhat normal. And so here we started to put digital forensics in a more of a better limelight. We started off with some research conferences. We had tools going out. We had started all the certificates and things started to really come out, and everybody was getting the digital forensic examiner certificates and things like that. So, what is our problems now? What are the problems? Do you have a question back there? Which reminds me, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I don't mind. We can talk now. I don't plan to keep you forever, for sure. So in the future, and our problem, like I told you before, the United States and of NIST and everybody's getting together and worried about the future of forensics for the legal system and how we can use it. Back in the day, maybe you had a gigabyte of music. They had 250 megabyte little MP3 things, and you had 20 songs, and it was amazing. Maybe now, a gig, you could still traverse the landscape by just using a simple desktop or computer and get the answer you need by doing a search and filter on this data. But as you guys know, we're starting to move, okay, maybe not to exabyte. I'm probably being a little bit exaggeratory here, but we're looking at so much data that one person it belongs to. Maybe closer to a terabyte. I think probably almost everybody's trying to at least get a terabyte on their laptops nowadays. I would die to have a terabyte for my phone just because it'd be awesome, right? Just give me a terabyte for my phone. Don't, not the cloud, just on my phone. But how do we search through data with all that? It's going to take forever, and we're not using parallel computing. We're not multi-threading really half of our applications. I put a GPU down there because I just think GPUs will make everything faster without really any proof, but I think there's enough proof to go with that assessment. And the idea is we need to start building tools that use different things that we already know about to make things go faster and easier for our examiners. This is sort of slightly touching on my research. I just add data science to looking for evidence. We're not looking at it in a very complicated way, and I'm not saying even AI. AI maybe 10 years in the future, I don't know, it's not my job anymore. But graph theory and basic things, and I'll go a little bit into that later, but timeline analysis and other things built on more and more timelines, we can learn a lot more about data in a little bit amount of time. And also now in the future, our cars are going to have data, and they already do have data. Our phones, our TVs, our washer and dryers. We could probably follow somebody throughout their home if we are able to collect all the data for it. And if we're going to do that, we're going to need to be able how to handle that data, look through that data, and analyze that data properly. So now I get to pitch my thesis work. My goal is not to bore you with my thesis work. If you want a clarifying question, I'm happy to answer it. I'm going to go through the gist of it. And so basically I took a small case. I did a drive-die download on a virtual Windows 7 virtual machine. And with that, I say somebody from company X saw an important PDF that they needed and they just downloaded it onto the machine. And let's see what we can do and how we can look at the data differently to find out what happened. I use a memory image because I liked it and no one could tell me what I could and could not do. That's really the gist of it. And then I got this graph. And I think for anybody who's ever looked at their process SOC or used volatility, they'll see the very similar things, right? Firefox EXE is spun up over here. I think you can see Adobe Reader over to the left, Explorer.exe, Notepad.exe. But that's actually a little bit too much data for someone to parse through. So I do some fancy magic, and I can reduce the graph to this size. And the fancy magic is I look at a previous version of a startup of a Windows 7 machine. If if those nodes are already there, I just get rid of them. They're not useful to me. They didn't have any user input from them. And now I have a really easy graph. I can actually have a lot of fun with this. And I can see it from my eyes, like, okay, Explorer.exe, they clicked on Firefox EXE, and then they went to a bunch of websites, and they definitely went to Dropbox.com. Great. All right, I can see they downloaded that, or they got a PDF, and that PDF went to a weird website, but it also opened up Notepad.exe. A little weird. They shouldn't do that. Maybe it should, but I could do some tests. And then I run a fancy algorithm. It's called Pagerank. I just stole it from the guy who created Pagerank. If you don't know Pagerank, Google Pagerank, done. That's all it is, really. And I find, like, what nodes will we tell an examiner to look at? Well, hey, Firefox.exe actually has a really high, oh, sorry, wrong algorithm. I use a different algorithm. It's called hits. It just makes hits. So basically hubs are large pieces of data that are super important. So that's why Firefox EXE pops up, because it has a bunch of different nodes lined up behind it that are also important for you to get to. But what its goal is to show you is like who goes out and does like higher level applications in your system. So an internet should pop up, an application should pop up. So you see Adobe's up there and Explorer.exe. It's just actually saying that the GUI was used throughout this application. Even better, I have PageRank. PageRank just shows me Adobe, Firefox, Notepad, everything. So I already have a ranking of evidence provided to me, provided to my examiners so they know where to look at before anything ever happened. And the gist, I made a tool. I did not open the source of the tool yet because I really thought no one would ever look at it, but then I got accepted to NolaCon and I was like, oh, I should really make my data and my code a lot more usable and readable, so I hope to open it soon. I was busy trying to graduate when all this was happening, so I do apologize. I thank you guys for your time. I'm going to actually, if you guys have no burning questions, do I have any burning questions? That I did not work on for a very specific reason in terms of I didn't know where I was going to get the data to do it. But what we did talk about with some people in my research committee is that there is a field called data provenance, which basically watches the flow of information that would be very important to chain of custody. And I said, good job, someone else should do that, for sure. Yeah.
I really like this utilization of waiting.
Yeah.
Did you look at any other algorithms for trying to
I did. I didn't see. So luckily enough, there's a Python module called NetworkX that did all this stuff for me. So I didn't need to relearn how to implement PageRank and these things. And so I took a lot of algorithms from that. I didn't see anything useful. I did have hopes that if we combine a bunch of different ones and different links, I could actually use some probabilities to actually link which path in the graph is more likely to be helpful in your investigation. I didn't waste my time with that because it was a lot of math, and once again, I was trying to graduate. The gist of my time. Any other questions? I definitely want to at least make the tool open source. I do think that if people, and I find people interested in it, then yes, I think a lot of the academics do not think about digital forensics, which was really, really frustrating and super annoying. I think sounds like you guys already know that is somewhat true. I actually don't know why, because half of the research that I found is already being done. I just put two things and put it together. I'm not a genius or anything, but no one else, it seems like everybody else refuses to do so, and I still haven't figured that out, which sounds like another PhD. Go ahead.
When I give presentations, I highlight my successes.
No.
But behind that is a ton of failures, especially in my
Oh, yeah.
lots of failures. Did you have any failures, or did you get lucky on the first time? And if there were any failures, any hilarious stories that come out of that?
Technically there was no failures. Thank you. I don't even know why, because I didn't think this was going to work, and then it worked, and I was like,
This is why you're a doctor.
No. I really don't think so. I don't. I guess this was the gist, was that hey, we use timelines. Why aren't we building graphs for things that already have obvious links to each other in data? And then it worked, which technically I guess we knew all along it should. It's just the fact that no one's done it for some reason. And I was like, I'm leaving, done. And I didn't think about it anymore. That's it. I didn't question it, and I just kept running until they gave me my degree. And I'm hoping that no one says anything, at least until after my degree. Go ahead.
So, the field of digital forensics is very hard.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of things you could say, there's a lot of places you could start. And so, it can be kind of intimidating if I don't have any background of how could I get started in digital forensics? What led you into digital forensics, and what would you recommend to people that might be interested in digital forensics so they can get their feet wet?
So my PhD path should never happen to people, because it made my life really easy. I actually have a husband who's in numerical analysis, some mathy version of CS that I don't pay attention to, and he's struggling a lot sometimes. I'm I feel so bad for you. My life was very simple. So what happened was, my first PhD project was to build a digital forensics course, a modular course that should be easy for law students and exciting enough for the CS students, right? So that's probably my hardest project, because CS students, oh goodness. And so I got my feet wet because I had to build the course over time. I don't suggest that. You guys can just have access to my course, which is not, if you email me, I can give it to you. It's actually running at the U of I right now. It has some labs, it has the PowerPoint, it has the answers. We give it out pretty much for free for any community colleges and universities and everybody else. I won't say it's perfect, but it does provide a lot of different areas. I won't say satisfy the digital forensic examiner exam, but it does get you, or at least your feet wet, so you're brave enough to try other things. And it's supposed to be made so that anybody can do it, and so anybody that doesn't have any equipment can do it either. Yeah. So, you're asking life questions, and I haven't decided any of those questions yet. And I've actually thought about this. I still don't have an answer. I've been blessed to work with a couple of undergrads who will actually help me make the tool nice and pretty, because there is no unit testing in my code. It is not pretty. It worked well enough for me, and that's the gist of it. So your answer is something, and I'm open up to ideas. I've been trying to think about this, but I don't have a business mindset, so I've been trying to read business books to figure out what to do with my life and or this tool and or other possibilities outside of this tool. I just don't have a good answer for you in that one. Any other questions? I'm going to plug something else if there isn't any other questions really quick. So while I was working at my job, we actually realized there's a lot of ethical questions that burn in the minds of hackers and cybersecurity folks and professionals. So we actually got accepted to an ethics village at DEF CON. And the gist is, ask a bunch of questions, probably won't get any answers. That's good enough for us. We're not telling you what to do. We have no intentions of doing that. We just want to talk. We just want to know what you're feeling. We actually had a course at the U of I purely on ethics, and having a bunch of grad students go at it a little bit was really exciting. So I think we just decided to lock a bunch of hackers in a room and to see what unfolds. And that's the gist of it. We just hope to foster a better understanding of what's going on. And so some of the questions we hope to answer, or not answer really, to ask are is it ever ethical to hack back? Should you pay to resolve a ransomware attack? Whatever happened with Facebook to begin with, or not? What does responsible disclosure truly look like, an ethical standpoint? And how does computer security pose ethical issues? We really felt like talking about it. If you're going to DEF CON, we can't pay for you to go to DEF CON, just to be very clear. I would love to. I just happen to be on a grant that will send me, but that's the gist of it. But if you're going, or you didn't think you wanted to go, and now you're like, I want to see what happens when you lock a bunch of hackers in a room and ask a bunch of dangerous questions, please join us at the Ethics Village. We actually don't know if we're 1 day or 2 days or 3 days anymore, because they keep changing their minds too. But we'll find out, and I hope you guys will see us there. Feel free to talk to me later on today. Thank you.